Joining me now, two men who need no introduction, but I'm going to introduce them anyway as we begin to close out the series. Mr. Brent Fletcher and Todd Helbing, thank you so much for joining us on a bittersweet moment as we say goodbye to our beloved series.
Thanks for having us.
No, thank you for having us.
I want to go back to before we dive into the finale. I want to talk about kind of where your minds were at heading into season 4, both initially and then finding out that this was going to be the final year, and how that kind of broke in the writers' room for you.
Yeah, I think it was. We came out. We started right after a strike, so we were dealing with that. Luckily, Brent and I had a couple weeks before the writers showed up. We found out the sort of hurdles that we all had to jump over with the cast reductions, the budget reductions. It was certainly a challenge that was put in front of us, but we also saw it as a huge opportunity. Not a lot of shows, particularly Superman media, knows that they're ending. We were told that this was going to be the first show where, you could argue that Smallville did, but that Superman show knew that it was coming to an end. So we just felt a huge responsibility for the fans and for us as storytellers to really stick the landing. So, Brett and I kicked around a plan. We got super excited about it. We were we were also enthusiastic when coming out of the strike. We just wanted to work.
Yeah.
And so we took all that anxious energy and just poured it into the story.
With the strike, we got the news about the reductions and all that during the strike. So I think Todd and I marched around for a long time going, oh, we're so screwed. This is going to be so hard, because you're powerless in that moment. And then when we got back into the room, I think after the first or second day, it was pretty clear we had a good idea of what we were doing. And it was like, oh, okay, it's going to be this. We got word a day or two later that the show was coming to an end, so it took a day to kind of like process that. But then it also it kind of unlocked a door for us because we could take swings that we wouldn't normally take because it was going to be the end. So we could do all these things that we didn't have to parcel out due to a longer plan, and that was kind of liberating, and it kind of opened up the possibility for some really cool stuff, we thought.
When you were looking at, obviously, incorporating Doomsday / Bizarro into the end of season 3, you knew you were heading in that direction. Here, what else that you thought down the line was going to happen that you felt needed to be to stick that landing that you had to incorporate into a final season that you might not have had this not been the final season?
Well, we definitely wanted to figure out the heart thing. So at the end of season 3, Brent pitched this thing where he said, "What if Luthor says, when you're done, bring me his heart?" Like, that's awesome. I don't know how we fix that later, but let's do it.
And we're always hesitant to pitch something where we don't have the idea. Right, I've been on shows where that happens, and then I'm mad at the pitch person because it's like, now we're stuck with this impossible Rubik's Cube to figure out. But we kind of had an idea about a day later. Like, we were like, we think we might do this and we could live with it,
Yeah, and originally we were going to have Tal-Rel come back. But with the budget restrictions, the cast reduction, we couldn't make that work. And then, the idea to have that be General Lane, it felt like it ended his story in such a really great emotional way. And then, once Superman was resurrected, we talked a lot about, Brent and I are, we're not spring chickens anymore, and we have kids, and it's like you start to really feel the mortality seep in a little bit, and when you wake up with a sore back every morning, you're like, God, this sucks. It's like, well, what if that happened to Superman? And it felt like the perfect opportunity to tell that story about aging.
Absolutely. If you're going to go that route, I think I think it was a huge achievement to do something that's not been done before and show that. I've never been the biggest fan of the reveal, of a public reveal. I'm not. And I have to give you both props for, and of course, I think that was in my opinion, Tyler's finest hour of the series.
I would agree.
You guys pulled that off in a way that I on paper I would be like, no, thank you. And I was just there, like I was fully into it the entire hour of the seventh hour of the series on how well you were able to craft that. Kind of walk me through what the plan was there, if that was there from the beginning or not.
Seven was kind of an open. We knew most episodes like a one-liner. And I think 7, we knew it was not going to have Lex just because of scheduling.
Right.
And so we started talking about it and quickly came to the idea of what if he reveals himself? But to your point, we also were not satisfied with like just the reveal because we've seen it and what's it matter? We felt we were onto something when we came up with like, what's this burden been for him his whole life? And if we can really explore this concept of like what it has cost him to keep a secret and how that's affected his mentality and how it's alienated him, like alienating the alien to us was interesting. And in a way, it made him more relatable. And anytime we make Superman relatable, like even like in a good way, we feel like that's a winning ingredient. And so we really started forging down that path. We came up with the flashbacks pretty quick, and we're excited about that. And we had the concept in the flashbacks, but weren't sure, we just couldn't quite figure out if we had it. And then George and Katie turned in a script. We built it. We were like, is there enough action for us? We're nervous about that because it doesn't have any of that. And then they turned in a script and we were like, this is great. Like we had broken it, but I don't know, Todd, I wasn't 100% sure until I read it.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like, at first I was a little concerned, but we did a similar thing with the diner scene. And I think in that episode, the diner scene is the only, in season 3 is the only sort of action.
Episode 4.
And it felt like, look, our mantra from day one was, the Superman, the heroics is cool. We all love it, right? We all turn into 13-year-old boys and get excited and it's cool. But if there's no emotion or no meaning behind it, you never remember that stuff. And so it felt like if we were going to do this and tell the story and have this massive moment and explore, the stuff that it cost him and what he's concerned about. And then we could do this bullet time sequence where he considers it that was really going to land with people. And, every time I've seen that scene, I don't know how many times, over 100 times probably by now. And it still like gives me chills.
Me too. I've watched it about 100 times in the last 2 weeks. No, good. And like I said, I feel like it was, I hate to say Tyler's finest hour because I feel like they're all, Tyler and Bitsy have absolutely just nailed these iterations of these characters so well and will be, what Chris Reeve was or what Tom Welling was or anybody else will be this generation's, moving forward when they think of Superman and Lois. And speaking to that, I guess let's discuss the finale and how you tell me about that blinking cursor on the screen when you get to that point. You're like, what are we? Was watching the two of them grow old together something that had there been 6 seasons that would have happened anyway, or was that a necessity born out of what little it all went by so fast?
I think there was going to be some version of that. We had talked about at some point in season 3, I think, like we had talked about versions of how you could end the show. Everything got accelerated or truncated, for this final season with 10 episodes. But, and we also knew we had this big responsibility and we wanted to do something different and have an emotional impact on the audience and the fans. And in a lot of ways you're judged on your final episode, so, but that was exciting to us. We came up with a lot of versions of that too, and watched a lot of shows that we felt were like some of the best series finales of all time. And like the reasons why they are considered that. And so, when we went into it, we just wanted to do something different. It was scary, but it was also like, we thought we had something special.
So
And death,
was it
oh,
was it your new hard ending? Was there a point where somebody else was in bed with?
Yeah,
yeah.
totally, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Seinfeld, it
but
was
that's
like
such
all
a
those guys
great
in the jail.
ending. We also thought, death is such a human thing. And because of the thing with him getting Sam Lane's heart, it kind of like Tetrised a lot of ideas for us. Like we could start to see him age. We could play in that sandbox. And then we could see him become a human and deal with a life as a human being, and that isn't something you always get from Superman or a superhero. But like one of the things that we really love about Tyler's version of Clark is he's so relatable, and it feels like somebody and you understand. And we just felt like this was a way to go out on that note, to go through something with someone that we're all going to face. Who knows how it turns out when you face it, but this is the idealistic version, and this is what Clark saw. And, what he says at the end kind of underscores who he is. It's all about hope and family and friends, and that's kind of the character of Superman in a nutshell.
Yeah, and we also thought like there's a huge opportunity to like, you know, when it all ends to go out with what he stands for, the hope and the brightness, right? And it's like, so that felt really, that last moment felt right to us.
Yeah. When you see it, do you picture them flying away at the end? Because that's the way I saw it when watching it. That's how I took it. Was them.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I have thought about other than them just watching, like embracing, mostly because I'm so emotional at the point. I haven't
Yeah.
thought about it too much.
Yeah. When that door opened, I was already a little teary, but that got me. That definitely got me. Them getting to reunite. So you do have to pack so much into that. I mean, the first 20 minutes is the Battle of Smallville.
Yeah.
Before, jumping, our time jump for a year there in those next 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So did you have to work backward from that? Did you go, okay, well, here's where we're ending, and we've got to go back to where Jay left us on 9 at that point, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Brent.
I mean, it was a packed episode, and so we tried to figure out how to like carve it up. And I think a lot of times we kind of do an inverse when we do a finale, which is like 4 scenes to wrap up an episode, 4 acts to wrap up an episode, and then 2 acts of coda, and a lot of that's set up for the next year, And so this time, what we did was wrap up the episode and wrap up the season, the episodic arc in 4, and then in the 5th act wrap up the season arc and also kind of the character journeys of the ancillary characters, which was a lot to pack into that wedding thing.
Yeah.
And then use 6 and give ourselves a chunk of time for that to do kind of the Lois and Clark send off, and just make that kind of a time out of place type of deal, And so we did kind of work. We knew that that was the framework. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, it was broken really rough, like
you
looked at the board. Todd and I have developed a shorthand where it's pretty light, especially in finales. We don't write a whole lot up, and we just kind of like pass the baton back and forth. And so that was kind of how we approached this one. And we were far enough ahead that we didn't have a huge time pressure on us. Like we were really good this year about hitting schedules and being way ahead of things, because that saved us money and it made our health better. Absolutely. Overall.
Mental and physical, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And, yes. I know every showrunner says we've got the best cast, we've got the best crew. To undertake what you guys did this season on such a more limited basis, it looks no different. I mean, and I'm sure many people have told you that throughout the season airing now, but it looks like our shows looked for the last 4 years. And
it was
a testament to the people you have assembled.
Oh yeah, they're just crazy, amazing people who were all in since day one. And we made some interesting choices that we didn't know if they were going to work out 1,000%, but they did, and that's like a testament to them. Like the farmhouse we didn't have this year,
right.
So when you see the outside with like in episode 3 and top of 4, that's all digi. It's a fake house, you know. So, and then, you know, also the crew, just because of the schedule, the shooting schedule, the days that we had were reduced considerably. So, you know, we worked a lot of Saturdays, and there's like some financial benefits of that. So, and everybody was down from day one. They were like, let's do it, man. Let's make the best season that we can.
And it's a testament to people caring about the thing that they're making. Like they could have not done it, or they could have done it half-assed. It required a lot of work from everybody, a lot of buy-in, and everybody gave it to us. You know, like I cannot. We don't have time for us to list all the department heads and what they did, you know, but to me, the show feels very homemade because of that. Like we made it for us, you know, when in 7, when Clark walks down the stairs and goes in front of the news crew, that's our crew,
right?
You know, best acting crew in show business. And then, you know, when the grandkids are there, that's our crew's kids. You know, some of my kids are in there. Like we threw a lot of that stuff in because it was important to us, because they had done so much for us. And I think we all were really appreciative of each other on this show. You know, it's a nice feeling. And you know, that's the thing I'm saddest about with it ending, is we had such a great group, you know, and you're like, oh, we could do so much, but this machine is, you know, finished, you know. And so it's that, to me, is the heartbreak of the thing, more than everything else, honestly.
Two quick questions. One, what didn't make it? What got filmed? What was your baby that absolutely got cut on the floor?
I don't know if we had, because it was. Are you talking about in the finale?
Yeah. Well, overall, if you've got anything overall, but I was thinking finale. Yeah.
I mean, in the finale, I don't know, because we had to write such a succinct script. We were actually concerned it was going to be short for a while there. Okay. But there was there was one scene after Clark and Lois are in the farmhouse at the wedding in Act 5, and he's like contemplating what his legacy is going to be. There was a scene after that we cut, and part of it was, or most of it was, Indy was not there when we shot that. So we did like a group photo, and it was going to be like, you know, here's a photo of our main cast all together at the wedding. And we had Alex Garfin sort of putting his arm like this. And then we were going to basically Photoshop, like the better version of Photoshop, put Indy in there. And there was no way that was going to work at all. And so that was a consideration. And then because we ran out of time, we were actually longer than we thought. We lost that scene.
That's a good.
It might show up on the DVD though.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have, though.
It is a good problem.
Tell me about the decision of aging the boys and bringing in David and those actors. The nice little bow you put on that.
The same thing. I mean, it felt homemade to us to have David. He directed for us. We know him, and he's just a great guy. So it seemed fun. And also, it's just you talk, you know, like, what are Alex and Michael going to look like in makeup 25 years later? You know, we knew we felt we had to do it with Lois and Clark. We talked about having other actors. They even asked us about it, but we were like, no, it has to be you two, because that's who we've been through the journey with. But we felt like the boys we could age up, because there's still a lot of growing to do, and that would kind of differentiate. And we knew that when he died, we could get them back. So we weren't we knew we would go out on our guys for the final. And so we were okay with it and decided to go that way. But that was kind of the calculus that was taking place.
In your mind, are they still Supermaning at that age? Are they still donning the show?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they take over. I think, you know, we had the shot of all of them, but they're working with Nat. You know, he's probably at Steelworks and maybe not superheroing so much anymore, but Natalie is. Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. I really enjoyed this entire season, this entire series. I got to say, I hope you mentioned the DVD, Todd. I hope the scores are coming, or is that a possibility?
Oh yeah. I'm sure Romer. Yeah, that Romer's. I mean, that's another person. Like, you know, I don't know if Dan gets enough credit, but his score from day one, that's a tough thing to do too. Is, you know, like, recreate that do a new version of the Superman score. So yeah, he killed it, and I'm sure that's going to come out. Yeah.
And to his credit, just a little a special note for the finale. We wrote the finale, like the into the spiritualized song called "Ladies and Gentlemen, We Were Floating in Space," and it was great. But we were like, let's see what Dan does with it because he's the guy that kind of got us here.
Yeah.
And when he did his score on the end, it was phenomenal. We were like, we got to go with that. Like he always outpaced himself and just like delivered home runs. And it was such a cheat code as a writer. You're like, maybe the scene isn't quite what I thought it'd be. Let's just crank up the volume of Romer and see if it like blocks. Yeah, maybe where it did something's not quite translating. And it worked. He's amazing.
It's a good score when you can do laundry to it. I mean,
100%.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
The absolute compliment you can give him. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.